Watch a narcissist's face in the exact second they realize you stop buying it. It doesn't go straight to anger. For about 3 seconds, it goes somewhere else, somewhere almost nobody ever gets to see. Real fear. That right there, that's the beginning of the end for them. Today, I'm walking you through exactly what happens after that, what people call narcissistic collapse. And by the time we're done, you'll get something most people never figure out. Exposing a narcissist might be the most dangerous thing you ever do to them, and it might be the most necessary thing you ever do for yourself. Here's what nobody tells you about narcissists. The confidence was never real. It's scaffolding built around a hole where a self should be. And the only thing holding that scaffolding up is you. Your attention, your forgiveness, your willingness to keep explaining yourself, keep doubting yourself, keep showing up. Psychologists call it narcissistic supply. I call it rent. They've been living in your head rent-free. And the second you actually see them, really see them, and they know it, that whole structure starts coming down. Buildings like that don't fall quiet. They're built to take you down with them. And once that clicks, you start to see why this gets so ugly, so fast. Most people think collapse is one moment, a blow-up, a scene. It's not. It's a chain reaction. And once it starts, you can't stop watching it happen. Picture this: family dinner. The kind where everyone's plate goes quiet at the same time without anyone saying why. Your sister has spent 15 years being the difficult one because she's the only person who's ever said the quiet part out loud about your father. Tonight she says it again, calm, flat, no tears. And for the first time, your cousin, the one who always changes the subject, doesn't change the subject. He just looks at your dad. Nobody breathes for a second. And your dad's face does something none of you have ever watched it do before. That right there is the first crack. And it's never the yelling that does it, never the tears. It's a witness who doesn't look away. To you, that's just the truth finally landing. To them, it's an earthquake, because their whole life, they've gotten away with exactly one thing: getting everyone in the room to agree on a lie about who they are. Someone just refused to sign off on it. Here's the part that'll mess with your head a little. When you hit a narcissist's ego like that, brain scans show it lights up the same regions as a broken bone. I'm not being poetic. That's not a figure of speech. So when somebody says a narcissist is acting like a wounded animal, they're not exaggerating for effect. That thing is physically in pain, which is exactly why confronting them never goes the way you rehearsed it in the shower the night before. Then comes the scramble. Watch the personality flicker like a bad signal. 1 minute they're crying, apologizing, almost human. The next minute they're furious, calling you ungrateful, dragging up something you did in 2019. That's not them being inconsistent. That's panic. They're cycling through every tool they own to get the room back under control, because without control of the room, they don't actually know who they are. This is also where the smear campaign starts, and I need you to understand how calculated it gets, because what's coming next is the part almost nobody warns you about. You'll get a text from a mutual friend, the kind you haven't talked to in months. "Hey, weird question. Did you really say that about his mom?" And your stomach drops, because you never said that. You've read it twice just to make sure. But somewhere, 3 retellings deep, in a version of the story you've never even heard, you did. They didn't just lose the room. They're already rebuilding it, with you cast as the villain before you've even processed what happened to you. That's not random cruelty. That's survival instinct. If they can't be the hero of the story anymore, they're going to make sure you're not either. Here's the uncomfortable part most people miss, though. Watching them fall apart isn't you winning. It's not revenge, even when it feels exactly like revenge. What you're actually watching is someone meet a version of themselves they cannot spin, maybe for the first time in their entire adult life. No audience to perform for, just them, alone with it. That's the one thing they've spent their entire life running from. That's why the hoovering shows up next. The sudden flood of, "I miss you. I've changed. Can we just talk?" It's not love circling back to find you. It's a drowning person reaching for the only hand they know will still answer. Don't mistake the reach for remorse. And this is the part people always ask me about. Does the collapse ever turn into real change? Sometimes. Rarely. The version of them sitting in the wreckage, stripped of the performance, that's the only version that's ever had a real shot at becoming someone honest. But most of the time, the second they find a new room, a new audience, a new mirror, they rebuild the exact same structure somewhere else. You don't get a vote in that. Okay, here's what actually matters in all of this. The collapse was never about you breaking them. You never had that kind of power, and honestly, you never wanted it. What you did was simpler and heavier. You stopped being a mirror. And the second you stop reflecting back the version of them they need to survive, they're forced to meet themselves. Maybe for the first time since they were a kid who decided it wasn't safe to be a real person out loud. That was never your tragedy to carry. You were never required to keep performing a role in someone else's survival story. The collapse is theirs. The peace is yours. Keep it. If this explains something you've lived through and couldn't name until right now, you already know what to do in the comments. Was it the scramble? The smear campaign? The hoovering? Tell me which part hit closest to home. And if you want to understand how this exact same wiring gets used on entire groups of people, not just one relationship, make sure to subscribe, because my next deep dive on how normal people get sucked into cults, the behavioral secrets, goes live on Friday. Now you see the architecture. Most people never do.